Do I think that you're a cold-blooded killer? No, I hope you're not a cold-blooded killer.
I have not killed him.
I hope he's not even dead.
He's not.
I honestly can't look at you and believe a word that's come out of your mouth. You have lied and lied and lied.
My family's being affected. My mom's got heart problems. She's over my house right now cleaning for Thanksgiving. My own parents were scared to come to my house for Thanksgiving.
It's the bottom of the ninth. And you've got 2 strikes, Judy. Okay?
I want the truth from you for the first time since November 19th.
I told you the truth. I don't know the guy. He came in and he... No, you haven't!
In the city of Tampa, Florida, in the year 2006, a 39-year-old man by the name of Abraham Shakespeare stops at a gas station with his friend Michael Ford. He insists Michael purchase a lottery ticket for each of them for the Florida Lotto. Just like anybody, Abraham puts his ticket inside his wallet and carries on with his week. Until one day, unlike any other, Abraham strikes gold. In November of 2006, Abraham checks the numbers on his lottery ticket, only to find that he had just won $30 million. Abraham Lee Shakespeare was born on April 24, 1966, in Lakeland, Florida. Growing up, his family was not very fortunate financially, and Abraham would also find himself going through troubles during his years in school. This eventually caused Abraham to drop out of school when he was only 12 years old, halfway through the 7th grade. Abraham suffered academically and hadn't fully developed his reading or writing comprehension skills. This is known as being illiterate. This continued to affect Abraham into his adult years. Due to this, Abraham constantly found himself relying on the assistance of others to fully understand specific issues that he would encounter throughout his life, trusting that these individuals had his best interest in mind. Abraham had also gotten into a bit of trouble throughout his juvenile and early adult years, committing crimes such as burglary and armed robbery. This resulted in several arrests and even a brief encounter with the US prison system. He cleaned up his act well behind bars and came out a better man, working multiple jobs and officially turning his life around. He found love in the year 1999 and had his first child in the year 2000. When Abraham won $30 million via the Florida Lotto, he opted for a bulk payout, turning his take-home into around $17 million, which then turned into about $12 million after being taxed. Abraham quickly went on a spending spree. He purchased some expensive jewelry and watches, several boats, some new cars, and a home valued about $1.3 million. He would help any of his friends who needed some financial assistance, and even take groups of friends on vacation after vacation. Michael Ford, the man who actually purchased the tickets for each of them, decided to challenge Abraham in court, stating that he purchased the ticket so the winnings were rightfully his. He also stated that Abraham actually stole said ticket from Michael's vehicle. Abraham ended up winning this case, and the court deemed the winnings were rightfully Abraham's. Despite an influx of old and new friends contacting Abraham on a regular basis, Abraham quickly learned that these people were using him for his money. Nobody was there for him when he needed them. They were only around when they needed something from him. Abraham noticed his spending habits were not sustainable, and that he was burning through his money at a rate that could end in disaster, as it does for many that choose to spend their earnings recklessly. In 2008, just 2 years after receiving his winnings, Abraham had spent 11 of the $12 million, leaving him with slightly over $1 million. Abraham went on to participate in a TV news interview, opening up about his situation.
I really would like my old life back where I could walk the streets like a normal person, but got people coming up asking for money.
It was shortly after this interview that a woman by the name of Doris Donegan Moore, a friend of the real estate agent that sold Abraham his new home, would contact Abraham with the proposition of helping him stretch his remaining $1 million for as long as needed, and possibly even turning it into more money. Her strategy was simple. While she assisted with his budgeting, She was going to simultaneously write a novel surrounding Abraham's life and story as a lottery winner who believed he had it all, only to learn that money does not buy happiness. Within weeks, Abraham was on board, and Doris was now his full-time writer and financial advisor. Doris would work aggressively during the first few months, investing his money wisely, and even chasing down debts that were owed to Abraham. It appeared as though the decision to hire her was actually paying off. Until November 9th, 2009. Abraham's cousin had not spoken with him for months, so he decided to call the police. He told the police that he hadn't heard from Abraham since April 7th, 7 months earlier. However, he did notice that Doris had continued managing Abraham's finances and accessing his accounts during that time. Abraham was then formally reported as a missing person.
Have you seen this millionaire? His name is Abraham Shakespeare. This is him being interviewed after he won a $30 million Florida jackpot. He opted for the lump sum payment, after taxes, worth about $12 million. That was back in November 2006. In the tiny town of Frostproof, Florida, it was at this convenience store that Abraham Shakespeare bought the lotto ticket that changed his life. But it's a life that officials now fear may have ended in foul play. Shakespeare did spend some of the cash, this $1 million luxury home in a gated community, and he gave money, lots of it apparently, to friends.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about Doris Donegan, aka Dee Dee Moore. Throughout Doris's life, she struggled maintaining her finances. She would throw herself in and out of business deals that would all eventually crash and burn. She once worked for a cellular phone company and later attempted to run her own company in the same industry. During this time, she purchased a vehicle, and when her company collapsed, she stopped making her payments. Instead of allowing the vehicle to get repossessed, or even just simply avoiding repossession, she decided to tie herself up and lay on the ground off the side of the highway. When somebody spotted her, she went on to claim that 3 Hispanic men assaulted her and stole her vehicle. She followed all of the required steps to try to add credibility to the robbery, including being medically evaluated at the hospital and partaking in several police interviews. The police took her word for it and opened an investigation. Less than 3 days later, a man contacted the police and told them that Doris had actually paid him $500 to hide the vehicle and that the vehicle was currently parked on his property. Doris seemed to believe that if the car was reported stolen, she would no longer be responsible for the remaining amount owed, and that she eventually would be able to continue driving this vehicle without having it repossessed. She then faced charges for insurance fraud and for making a false police report. In 2001, Doris also decided to stop paying her rent. When she was confronted regarding this issue, she claimed that there were people out to harm her, and she was currently unable to make her rent payments, as she was trying to protect herself from these people. She later stated it was a nameless ex-co-worker who was stalking her and threatening her life. Doris was beginning to show signs of being a pathological liar, also known as mythomania and pseudologia fantastica. Being a pathological liar is not in itself a mental health diagnosis. However, it is a well-established concept in psychology. Pathological lying is generally more related to frequently disordered thinking patterns and beliefs. The word pathological actually indicates that there's an underlying pathology or illness. Hence, the signs of being a pathological liar are associated with various underlying mental health conditions. Pathological liars may lie for a specific reason, or their lying may be more random. This means that pathological lying is not defined by the frequency of the lies, more so at the significant distress and danger that this lying causes. For example, a pathological liar may lie about their homicidal tendencies in a therapy session, putting themselves or others in imminent danger. A pathological liar not only lies frequently, but may feel a compulsion to do so. This type of liar cannot stop lying even when it causes psychological distress or puts themselves or others in danger, creates problems with their work, relationships, or other aspects of their daily life. All of these traits seemed to embody Doris Donegan. However, Doris somehow turned her life around and started a fairly successful company in 2004. Earning close to $200,000 a year. Things began to appear like Doris was on the right track, until her previous tendencies started to catch up to her. In 2006, Doris was introduced to a younger couple who was looking for assistance, establishing a new company. They gave Doris $60,000 to be used for any expenses along the way. Doris then kept the $60,000 and refused to help this couple any further, citing that the money she was provided was for her time and that she was unable to gain any traction setting up their business. Doris continued to run this type of scam on several other people as it appeared they somehow had no grounds to pursue her in court. This continued until 2008, when Doris connected with Abraham. And quickly after the business deal between the two began, a recently divorced Doris moved in to Abraham's mansion. The police decided to check Abraham's home following the missing persons report. When they knocked on the door, Doris answered. They asked her some questions regarding Abraham's whereabouts, and she replied quickly and confidently. And then she grabbed a briefcase full of documents. She stated that Abraham had decided to go into hiding, liquidate all of his belongings, including his home, to Doris, and basically just disappear for a little while. She showed the officers the corresponding documents signed by Abraham as she spoke. She also stated that he did this because he was exhausted of the publicity that he gained from the winnings, and to escape the needy people he had gotten entangled with. She even went as far as showing the officers multiple videos of Abraham that she recorded on April 9th, where she eerily questioned Abraham about what he wants to do with his life.
Do you get tired of people asking you for money all the time, Abe?
Well, they tried a year ago. They don't take no for an ounce or so. And just let them keep on asking.
So where you want to go to?
It don't matter to me. I'm not a picky person.
California? Cozumel? You want a foreign country?
Baby.
Are you going to miss your home?
Yep, I miss it, but life goes on.
Well, they asked me why I'd want to buy your bad debts, and I told them I bought them from him because he can't collect anyways, and every time you try to collect, they threaten to kill you. So you're not ever going to get anything. Are you sure this is what you want to do about leaving this house? You're not going to miss it. You're not going to miss it when you leave. This is what you want to do.
Yes.
Despite having video and audio recordings discussing his leaving, when the officers asked exactly where he went, she said, "How the hell would I know?" This drastically increased police suspicion, and the investigation ramped up. Officers now obtained a warrant to search through both Abraham's and Doris's phone records and belongings. During this process, they had noticed that Abraham was sending and receiving nearly hundreds of text messages every day up until April 9th, 2009. On that day, everything completely stopped. Everything except his conversations with Doris. Police found that after April 9th, Abraham and Doris continued texting each other for the following 3 months. Strangely, during each conversation, it appeared as though both of their phones were seemingly in the exact same location. When Doris was confronted with this information, she said, "You got me. I've been helping Abraham hide away by texting myself from his phone." The officers then asked her to get in touch with Abraham for them. She replied, "I can't. I have no idea where he is."
Now, she says she too cannot find him. Sheriff Judd isn't buying it.
She was texting from Abraham's cell phone to her cell phone and to other people's cell phone, giving the illusion that it was Abraham.
How do you know she has his cell phone?
She told us.
And she told you she did the texting?
Yes, because she was creating the illusion for him to stay hidden.
In the only interview she has given, Dee Dee Moore told the Lakeland Ledger she believes Abraham Shakespeare is still alive.
I think that he'll pop up if he realizes how the extent of what level this investigation has went to.
Then she began to cry as she complained about the police search of her home and car.
I'm done. What else can they do to me? They've turned my life inside out.
When officers asked her for the phone, she said she threw it out her window while she was driving down the highway. Despite this information being quite damning, Doris was not yet arrested. In December of 2009, Abraham's mother gets a call from a strange man. This strange man says something along the lines of, "Hey Mom, it's me, Abraham. Everything is all right. I just needed a break from everything for a little while. We will talk soon." Of course, Abraham's mother was well aware that this voice did not belong to her son. When police traced this call, they discovered a man named Greg Smith. Officers were able to obtain a warrant to triangulate Greg's location based on his most recent calls. They then decided to wait for a new call to appear before heading to the location that call appeared to be placed from. This led them to a shopping center parking lot. They parked their undercover police vehicle and watched as Greg pulled up. As they monitored Greg, they noticed a very familiar car pull up as well. This vehicle then parked directly in front of Greg's truck. Doris Donegan then exited her car and walked up to Greg's window. She handed him an envelope. Greg can then be seen pulling cash out of this envelope and counting it. Doris then got back into her car and drove off. Officers then followed Greg out of the parking lot for a few blocks, until making a quick decision to cut him off and confront him about the transaction with Doris. Greg then quickly admitted to the investigators that Doris had paid him $5,000 to make the call to Abraham's mother. Doris Donegan, aka Dee Dee Moore, was promptly named a person of interest in the disappearance of Abraham Shakespeare.
Authorities say a business associate, Dee Dee Moore, took great pains to make it appear as if the missing millionaire was alive after he was last seen last April, but she says she doesn't know where he is.
Frankly, she's a con artist. And if she were trying to sell me something, I wouldn't buy it today.
Moore told detectives she befriended Shakespeare, giving him financial advice after he won the $31 million in 2007, but police aren't buying that either. She transferred more than $1 million from Shakespeare's bank account into one of her own, telling detectives later the money was a gift.
We can see where the money went to American Medical Professionals, which is in her name, and the president is listed as her friend's Shar Korinsky.
Now, Moore is considered a person of interest in the disappearance of Abraham Shakespeare, but she's yet to be charged with anything.
Around this time frame, Doris took part in an interview with a local news station regarding Abraham's disappearance.
So before you even met him, he'd already burned through $11 million. A lot of that was in loans to family and friends.
Everybody and their brother was coming to him. He got so bad that when he first won, his mom will tell you, and even his neighbors will tell you, they had cars lined up, and they would stay there, lined up outside, till he woke up, no matter what time of day. So if it was 10 or 11, they would stay outside until he got up. He liked the attention that it gave him, but he didn't like the fact that people would call him and ask for it all the time. He would get frustrated because he would tell them no, and they wouldn't take no for him. So I came in, and he wanted to go ahead and start over. He wanted a new life. He was tired of people calling him, harassing him for money. I understand what he's going through, and I know he's okay in my heart. But I hope that, he can come back around.
When's the last time you actually saw him?
I think it was April.
Okay, so it's been a good while.
Yeah.
Doris now believed that Abraham's cousin might be involved.
Cedric lived in a house that I own. Abraham bought that because Cedric kept asking him to buy a house, for him, but it's supposed to be making payments. Well, they don't make their payments back. Well, he got tired of that and said, they're never going to pay me. That's when he had wanted to leave and said, hey, I'll sell you the house. So he told Cedric, I sold you to the house, I'm leaving. You owe her the payments every month. They hadn't paid me. Well, I had threatened him with eviction.
So you think he filed in retaliation against you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he tied me up under investigation. Then I would be under investigation. And guess what would happen when we leave? Then everybody's little things would go away. They wouldn't have to worry about paying anybody.
Although this sounded like a reasonably possible accusation, Doris just could not keep herself out of trouble. Doris's use for Greg didn't end after he outed her to the police. Instead, Doris contacted him again and asked if he knew anybody who she could use as a fall guy, somebody to say that they had murdered Abraham. Greg said sure, as long as you tell me exactly what you did. Greg then immediately called the police and reported this conversation. Investigators told Greg to set up another meeting so he and Doris can discuss a price. During this meeting, they planted a wire inside a Red Bull can that Greg was actively pretending to drink out of.
Then what do you want?
50 grand.
Can I do it in payments? Because I don't have that kind of cash. I'm going to have to sell something.
I'm going to need 10 up front. Once I do this, make sure my boy get the money.
Following this meeting, they planned another fake meeting. This time, there was a third party present. This third party was an undercover police officer. Doris believed that this undercover officer was going to act as a fall guy for her. As she arrived to this meeting, she handed Greg a towel. Inside the towel was a gun that she claimed murdered Abraham. She also brought a hand-drawn map that she claimed was a map to the location of Abraham's remains. Doris still denied any involvement in his murder.
These cops are trying to frame me for killing Abraham. I really didn't kill the man.
Okay, where's the serial number?
Serial number is, I don't know where they're all. They could be inside.
They still won't be able to do it. Forensic files taught me a lot of. See, he need to give him a murder weapon. You need to start thinking about self-defense. See, get dogs on self-defense.
You're going to be a legend, and you're going to be in a book, and probably on the Oprah show.
After following the map that Doris provided, which took them to the backyard of a house that she owned, investigators found a large concrete surface recently installed in this location, so they began tearing this concrete up. As they started their dig, Doris was finally arrested and questioned by investigators regarding Abraham's disappearance. During her first interview, she stuck to her story that Abraham ran away. But now she had a plethora of different reasons why.
Because he wanted to pretend he was dying of AIDS so that he doesn't have to pay child support and people won't look for him if he's dying of AIDS. It was a videotape of him having sex with a girl.
She was then confronted about the gun and the map, and her story changed again. She then stated that some man named Ronald murdered Abraham right in front of her. She was then being used as a pawn to help Ronald communicate with Greg. She stated that she did this because she was worried about herself and her son's safety.
You know, I'm not the one that shot him. I wouldn't hurt him.
Then who did, Dee Dee? Tell us. You were able to contact Ronald, and Ronald told you right where that body was at. Really? But you can't get a hold of Ronald, but you got a hold of Ronald then. Come on. It's over.
I told him I had to meet him back later to make sure.
Dee Dee. There's no Ronald.
The man threatened to kill my son. I don't even know Ronald's last name.
Doris's story changed several times. Her traits as a pathological liar started to leak through her facade like never before. As the officers felt more confident with the evidence against her, her web of lies only became more tangled. Her third story was that the murder was actually a drug deal gone wrong.
It was a drug deal that went bad, and the guy's name is I just found it out.
But with her inability to fill in the blanks, the officers quickly called BS on that tale.
If there's ever been some kind of cover-up, you did it on this case.
I had to.
Her fourth story was that Abraham's cousin Cedric, the man who reported Abraham missing, had actually pulled the trigger and shot Abraham twice, both times in the chest. This happened very quickly after visiting a safe that was supposed to contain money for Abraham. When the safe was opened, there was no money and only a gun. Cedric then grabbed this gun and fired. Doris stated that this was because Abraham purchased a house for Cedric and was trying to collect a series of past due mortgage payments from him.
It's the bottom of the ninth, and you've got 2 strikes, Dee Dee. Okay?
I watched Cedric shoot him. I was in the room. But I'm telling you, Cedric took the gun and in cold blood did not even hesitate to shoot the man, and I've seen it happen.
As mentioned earlier, most pathological liars will present lies that not only put themselves in imminent danger, but may also put others in danger as well. This is usually due to a compulsion caused by the desire to remain in control. Doris takes her lies to another extreme, her fifth story possibly being the lowest one yet. This time, she quite literally accuses her 13-year-old son of murdering Abraham. She states that Abraham was going to hurt her, so her son used deadly force to protect his mother.
She said, my son RJ shot Abraham twice. Abraham was trying to choke me. RJ walked in the room, grabbed my gun, and shot him.
he was only protecting me like any son would do.
After 3 days of digging, the body of Abraham Shakespeare was uncovered, buried below the concrete surface in Doris's backyard. He was found with 2 gunshot wounds to the chest. One of the investigators on the scene made a disturbing realization that the outfit that Abraham was wearing was the exact same outfit from the video that Doris had provided them from April 9th. The same video referenced earlier, where Abraham stated he needed to get away. The interviewing officers then upped their intensity another notch.
All right, Dee Dee.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you everything from the start.
We'll sit here and listen to what you got to say. All right? But don't waste our time anymore.
I have no motive. I have no reason. I cared about that man.
It's very hard, not only for us, it'd be very hard for anybody to sit here and look at the things and go, okay, here's this lady who got the Corvettes, got the houses in her name, got the this, and then you're going, but Abraham knew about that, and Abraham wanted that was in business we were going to invest in, and blah, 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 you know, and what makes it really hard to believe is the lengths and the things that you did to cover up that he was, or to make it still look like he was alive, and then once it was looking like he wasn't alive,
well, I'm going to explain that. I'm going to explain that part.
A lot of our questions have been answered now, and now it's time to lay everything out on the table and get to the bottom of it.
I can tell you right now, look at my eyes. Look down. You may not have shot him, okay? But I'm telling you right now, you were involved. You are the one who did what happened. Okay.
Well, you asked James, your ex-husband, to dig a frickin' hole.
James Moore did dig that thing, okay? I know he did, all right? James Moore knows he did. We know what happened.
You want me to tell you a lie. He is innocent in all of this, and so you're going to put an innocent man in jail.
But you are not. You are not.
You want me to admit that I
are not.
forcefully, I paid some crazy man to kill Abraham, and that is not true. I wouldn't pay for a man to get killed over money.
What is the truth? So you killed him yourself. You've got probably the top 2 sheriff's offices in the south end of Florida on this one case.
Probably.
Okay, it's not going to get by. It's not going to get by.
It's just time.
The book has been opened. The page is laid out. We know it all.
Look at, I told you, you need to go and wait until they give you time of death and check that.
This isn't CSI, forensic files, and crap like that.
It's time to start admitting what you did. Honestly. No more games.
An innocent person's going to go to jail.
Dee Dee, stop for a minute. We know Cedric's not involved.
He really worried me.
Are you serious? 5 minutes ago, if I hadn't told you that we had the audio tapes, you were going to tell us it was Cedric. Dee Dee, tell us what happened then. Don't come up with fake names. You need to run this down.
I gave you the exact scenario of everything happened except for the names of people.
Well, then why not give the name?
Every time I gave the same exact story of exactly how it happened except for the name.
No, you haven't.
No, they've been different versions.
Ronald, Cedric, this, that, blah, blah, blah.
Shit, you even named your own son at one point.
You would ruin that boy's life. He'll never be the same.
I know that. And I
never be the same because of you. You don't care. You don't care. You care about you.
No, I
You're
don't
the
care.
only one that you care about. You're the most selfish woman I've ever seen in my life. I want the truth from you for the first time since November 2000.
I told you the truth. I don't know the guy. He came in and he...
No, you haven't.
With the evidence that was already obtained, and a series of changing stories, Doris was then charged with the first-degree premeditated murder of Abraham Shakespeare. During her court proceedings, it became relatively clear that Doris was not going to let up on any of her previous stories. Her mental disorders seemed to culminate with each and every court appearance, clarifying the assertion that she was in fact a pathological liar.
What a difference a day makes for Dee Dee Moore. Yesterday and several days this week, Moore was in tears during her murder trial. But today, she was smiling and stayed on the judge's good side for a change. Our Allison Murrow's outside the Hillsborough County Courthouse with the latest on this up and down trial. Allison?
Yeah, it really is, Brendan. We do think that this mood swing is a result of more scolding from the judge yesterday for crying too much. Take a look at this video. She actually started the morning by giving her attorneys a thumbs up sign. She prayed for about 30 seconds and then just kept on smiling, as you said, even though testimony today really wasn't in her favor. An investigator with the state attorney's office told jurors that after Abraham Shakespeare, her alleged victim, met Moore, that his bank account took a quick nosedive from more than $1 million to zero. And Moore is accused of killing him, of course, for all of that money. But her attorneys argued that Shakespeare really had already spent most of his $13 million before he ever met their client.
He didn't have any trouble spending money or going through large sums of money.
He spent a lot of money, yes. Now, whether he bought a car, property, all of this, loan money out.
Now, we do have a crew inside the courthouse right now, and we know this is not over yet today. In fact, some of the most compelling material is happening right now. Jurors are watching video of detectives interrogating Moore, and they keep telling her that her story just doesn't add up and basically accusing her of lying about murder. So we'll have all of that for you at 11 o'clock tonight.
She's accused of killing a lottery winner after taking control of his wealth. And today, Dee Moore watched video of herself explaining exactly what happened to Abraham Shakespeare when he vanished in 2010.
Well, deputies suggested that Moore was a pathological liar and that every time they asked her where Shakespeare was, she would create an elaborate fairy tale to mislead investigators.
Dee Moore was treated in the jail infirmary after she complained about pain from her leg restraints.
I had an anaphylactic, sorry, my tongue. I had an anaphylactic shock.
Once cleared by a doctor, the trial continued with video of hours of questioning by Polk County investigators. Moore gave a wide variety of excuses why Abraham Shakespeare disappeared. One detective told the jury Moore even made a pass at him after the interrogation.
She actually came toward me and she said that I wasn't going to get angry, that I was going to have sex with her. She said she was very attracted to me and hoped once her name was clear that I would pursue a relationship with her.
But in the end, this disastrous web of lies that sadly ended the life of Abraham Shakespeare also ended the freedom of the insect that spun it. And Doris Donegan Moore, a.k.a. Dee Moore, was convicted for the murder of Abraham Shakespeare. And on December 10th, 2012, she was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole.
Cold, calculated, cruel, they all apply. Manipulative, probably the most manipulative person that this court has seen. Abraham Shakespeare was your prey and your victim. Money was the root of the evil that you brought to Abraham.
And with that, he sentenced Moore to life in prison without parole.
To this day, Dee Moore still claims that she is completely innocent of the charges that she was convicted of.